Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric McQuaig, and for my term project, I've decided to choose General Motors bankruptcy. So I'd like to begin and tell you guys a little bit about General Motors' history. We're going to talk a little bit about their bankruptcy. I also want to talk about their new vision and how they plan to never have this happen again to them. I'm also going to talk about Lear Corporation. I chose to interview a family friend from Lear Corporation and how it affected their automotive supplier and the relationship with GM. I also did a GM interview, and I'll talk about that towards the end, and then my closing remarks and thoughts on how the presentation and how the project went. So I first want to talk about GM and how it got founded. They were founded. GM was founded by Billy Durant. Um, During his time, he bought 39 companies as being CEO. In 1923, GM almost went into bankruptcy again. So, looking back into it, they almost went into it back in 1923. And Alfred Sloan ended up taking over the company in 2000 or in 1923, basically because of the financial burden and problems they were having. Sloan was excited and really wanted to expand GM globally, so he wanted to have more of a broad base. So what he did was ended up opening up 15 different factories globally. The problem he was having though was he was opening up too many factories and expanding too much globally and not worried about, or wasn't focused back in the U.S. and kind of lost track and didn't really centralize GM back in the U.S. So everything was spreading out too fast and too much rapid growth was happening when Sloan was taking over. Also, after World War II, the unions wanted more pension funds. They wanted better health care coverage, and they're having a little bit of problems with that as well. Taking a step into 1970, GM was replacing their bumpers with more lightweight and more aerodynamic features, and the problem with that was it was losing a lot of the coolness in the cars, a lot of the features that they were having. So the problem, people really didn't like it because it just didn't look as high quality, and people were kind of getting upset. They were paying a higher price for a less quality car. So, but the thing is they wanted to do this because the CAFE standards have drastically changed, and they had to keep up with it. So the only way to do that was to make a lighter weight vehicle, as well as change the looks on it a little bit to make it more aerodynamic and take some of the factors out that some of the true car people liked. So that was one of the big problems they had in 1970. In 1980, GM saw that the Japanese were starting to take over the whole automobile industry. They were changing a lot of the ways they were doing business in terms of making lean manufacturing. That was sort of the growth there. And also, they just could compete way better than GM could. So a lot of Americans or globally, people were changing over to that. Also, they did a joint venture with Toyota. GM did a joint venture with Toyota in Downey, California, and that's when they started to see that the lean production system was taking over and was very suitable for what they wanted to have. In the 1990s and the 2000s, more people were retiring, which means higher pensions, and GM was starting to fork out a lot of money. So they were having kind of a little bit of problems into the 2000s, 2003 era. Since 2008, GM has been the largest and the biggest car maker in the world. So they've set pace, ever since they've been in existence. So GM was also producing over 9 million cars and trucks a year. They were also sold in 34 different countries globally. There was 463 subsidiaries and 234,000 employees globally. 91,000 of those were employed in the U.S. though. 943,000 retired workers were starting to happen. So obviously you can see too, in 2008, this is when you started to see more of a backfire. So you can start to see it, the bankruptcy starting to build up in 2003, and then all the way up until now, they're starting to pay a lot more money for these workers that are retiring, and more problems are starting to occur. GM spends around $50 billion a year buying parts and services from 11,500 vendors. So that's a huge amount of number. It's a huge, substantial amount of capital for spending. GM pays out closely to $5 million in annual salary, or I should say that's monthly salaries. So $500 million in monthly salaries is quite a bit of money. So you can already start to see too that some of the finances and things aren't really being kept up and controlled. So this is all building up into this bankruptcy. During GM's bankruptcy, $82.3 billion in assets and $172 billion in liabilities. So we can already see that that's over double their liabilities as their assets are. So this is not very good, and they're going to have to fix that. So ever since 1925, GM has been on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, but in 2008 that all changed. So 2009 that changed. So you'll see that now GM's came out with a new stock. It's owned by half the government. I think 72% of that's owned by the government. But that's been a huge mark in history, having GM not be on the Dow Jones Industrial Average anymore. 68% of companies are GM suppliers basically have downsized their business. So there was a survey that was taken, and out of 68% of the suppliers have basically said that they're going to be greatly affected and they're going to have to downsize their business. There's also 12% of suppliers who have basically said, since GM's gone bankruptcy, we've completely killed our business and we are done. We've been wiped out. 40% reduction will be taking place or has been already taken place, but this is saying in 2008 when the bankruptcy happened, 40% of dealerships worldwide, globally, have been downsized or completely shut down. So you can see that that's a huge hit on not only suppliers but also General Motors, their dealerships as well. So I have right here. I'd like to talk about GM's vision. It's kind of hard to see. I guess I'll hold it out here. But basically, I'll explain it right here. It's a wheel. So what they have is they came up with this wheel of saying design, reinvest, build, and sell. So these are the main points that they want to hit on and they want to have for their new vision. So for design, they'd like to have fewer brands and they want to leverage global resources. They also want to say that they're going to lead development in R&D. For build, they want to optimize global footprints. They want to maximize operating facilities. So, like I said, they've shut down over 40% of their dealerships. So they want to rebuild these back up and have a stronger brand name. For reinvest, they'd like to have cash and profits more back, or I should say, spent back into their vehicles. So they can also, it goes back into design, research and development. They also want to have more of an economic viability, so they want to be more global, but they also want to be able to have more of an economic attraction as well, so cheaper cars and things like that. They also, going back to selling, they want to have a focused brand strategy, so they really are trying to build this brand loyalty back up, I believe. And they also want to offer sustainable vehicles and also more choices. So that'll bring me into our next topic. Right now they have 4 major brands. So they have Chevrolet, Cadillac, GMC, and Buick. Those are the 4 brands that they're really heavily focused on. And over on this side, I have some of the brands from the past. So they've gotten rid of Hummer, they've gotten rid of Saturn, Oldsmobile, and Pontiac. They've also gotten rid of a couple other ones. But these ones are, I would say, some of the main meat to their business that they had to cut away. So while we're here, I'd like to also say and show you guys that General Motors, the shrinking share, this might be very hard to see, but basically it's showing from 1980 to 2008. As it's going across, they went from about 43% and they've dropped already to 19.1% of the total U.S. market share. So you can see this has been a steady decline even back from 1980. So also you can see over here I have, this is their pyramid model sort of. So new business model is first, which kind of what I was showing you guys down here with this wheel. The leverage to global growth, that's already incorporated in their vision and their model, but this is the way they're going, and then they want to significantly lower the risk profile. So going from that, I'll talk a little bit about Lear Corporation. Lear Corporation, they heavily focus on Ford and GM, but they make seats, so the actual seats in the cars, and also a couple little electronic components as well. They declared bankruptcy in 2009, but they had 1.27 billion in assets and 4.5 billion in liabilities. So obviously you can see that's whatever, a third of it, or triple that they've had in liabilities. 36% of Lear's sales come from North America, and then you'll see 49% come from Europe and things like that. But you can also, a little bit of history as well for the EU. They haven't been very strong as well. They have been having problems, I believe, about 2 to 3 years ago. So overall, I mean, having the bankruptcy happen here and then Lear having the EU not be very strong as well is a huge hurt for them. So GM and Ford are their biggest their biggest customers, and they're a combined total of 40% of their overall sales. So just two companies, overall sales, they combined to 40%, which is a huge, huge number. During the bankruptcy, Lear's stock actually went down to 28 cents, so pretty much completely destroying anyone's savings or, if you will, like retirement plan. So completely, pretty much wiped out basically. So that's the effect of the one supply that I decided to use Lear Corporation. Also, for my interview in GM, I interviewed Philip Hansen. He is in the remanufacturing transmission group. So he's been there for about 20 years, and some of the things that he highlighted that he saw from the bankruptcy was basically the bankruptcy started and he could see it happening even before 2009. So there's a lot of things built up to that, as you can see. I mean, market shares are going down. Some of the brands were getting eliminated. So you could already see this built up. So he said he could see that happening. He did have some investments in, we didn't really go into detail, but he made some investments in GM, and a lot of those got completely wiped out. If not, he only got a little bit left. He said it wasn't very much. But some of the positives, he really wanted me to highlight this in my presentation, that they are hiring like crazy, he said. They're expanding, and they are trying to bring jobs back in the U.S., which is awesome. Also, he enjoys flex time. So what that means is him and his group, he has about, he's a manager, so he has about 8 people reporting to him. So within the 8 people in his group, they all have 1 week or 1 day a month that they can actually work from home. So what they do is they try and schedule it. It can't be a Monday or a Friday, but it can be throughout the week, either Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And each person 1 month gets to take 1 day basically from home. So you still have to work and everything, but he said he really enjoys that. He thinks that, I mean, some people kind of laugh and joke about it, but he's actually seen increase in production with his own teammates, and as well as him. He says he actually gets up earlier, and since he doesn't have to drive, he drives about an hour into work. So he says he doesn't have to waste his time traveling to work. He can literally wake up and get on conference calls or get on emails and things like that. So he said he really liked that, and he thinks that it's actually increased a lot of productivity. Also, he definitely sees a lot of growth, and he sees that there's a lot of new potential things happening. Definitely for Cadillac, he said too. That's one brand that he thinks is very strong and doing very well. Overall, I've really learned a lot from this topic and presentation or research that I've done, and I want to share one last thing with you. He, as I was interviewing him, he wanted me to make sure to show this. He thought this was really cool and really beneficial. So I have this on my tablet, but I'll kind of hold it.
A lot of Americans agree with giving GM a second chance. Quite frankly, I can respect that. We want to make this a company all Americans can be proud of again. That's why I'm here to announce we have repaid our government loan in full with interest, 5 years ahead of the original schedule. But there's still more to do. Our goal is to exceed every expectation you've set for us. We're putting people back to work, designing, building, and selling the best cars and trucks in the world. With our 100,000-mile, 5-year powertrain warranty to guarantee the quality and the unmatched life-saving technology of OnStar to help keep you safe. From new energy solutions to the designs of tomorrow, we invite you to take a look at the new GM.
So he wanted also, for me to share that video too. But just as a wrap up, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this and got something out of it. And again, thank you, and have a good day.